family come together in this crisis. So thank you very much for being here. It's important that we have this meeting today because you need to stay informed. You're the family, you're the leaders, you're the decision makers in the field out there, and if you don't know what's going on, it's hard to do what you do, which is to make Sun and Fun happen. So the most important part of any meeting that we have here is to recognize the two powers that make it possible for us to do all the wonderful things we do in the free world. That's recognize our country and then recognize the higher power. So please, if you would, stand and let's do our pledge. We'll do the anthem and then we'll recognize the higher power. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Let us pray. Father, there is a giant that is raging across the lands of our world. The world, O Lord, that you have created by your spoken word. But of course you know of this giant. It is devouring the confidence and the determination of the many peoples of this earth. It is devastating the global economy and distressing the health and the welfare of our normal lives. We stand in reverence before you and now ask for your divine intervention. Impart the wisdom to the doctors and the scientists to speed the development of a vaccine to help prevent the sickness and death from this virus. As we're given more specific details about the anticipated delay of the fly-in today, we ask that you give us insight and understanding in order to achieve the ultimate goal of success. Let there remain a spirit of harmony between all the chairmen and all the staff of this event. Unite us with a common vision, recognizing that we are ultimately working together to achieve a safe, a healthy, and a successful event, one that will be enjoyed by all of our participants, by exhibitors, by volunteers, by our staff, and by every guest that would enter these grounds. You recorded in your word in 2 Timothy, in the 1st chapter in verse 7, for God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, and of love, and of a sound mind. Now we ask these requests in the matchless name of Jesus, and all said, Amen.
All right, please have seats. Okay, a lot to cover today, but most importantly, I'd like to invite up here, recognize first several of our guests in the audience out here that are part of our team. Is Jennifer Anderson. Jen Anderson, where you at out there, Jen? Where's Jen? Back here, there she is. All right, good. Along with Steve Moore, Bill Leach, and Joe Gromowski. Are they all back? Yes, they're a part of our FAA team. And oh, by the way, they are here for us in the new dates, all the way, every day. Bob Jex, my best friend from flying on the carrier back in the day. There he is. Good to see you, sir. Another FAA fine guy. Adam Lund and Craig Stewart from the airport are here. There they are, right there. That's operations and field maintenance. So all of the entities that are with us in every fly-in are ready to move to the next stage. To give you a little update, though, on the perspective from the boards, I'd like to invite up both the chairman for the Aerospace Center for Excellence, which is Rick Garcia, and the chairman for the Sun and Fun Board, Dr. Harley Richards. Please, gentlemen.
Thank you all for being here. This is certainly an unusual situation and something we won't see for another 100 years, maybe. You know, if somebody had told me last week that Publix was going to ration toilet paper, I would have laughed. And I'd still like to hear Dr. Sion explain what the run on toilet paper is all about. Because that's it just shows the craziness of what's going on. But I thought I'd give you about a 2-minute recap of this week. I mean, the landscape changed this week like you can't believe it. Lights and I got an email from Pat Hill about a 52-year event out west, a big art festival. I think it was out in Oregon that canceled. And I sent him an email, and Lights did too, and I said, cancellation of Sun and Fun is not an option. That was Tuesday. So fast forward to the ACE board meeting on Thursday, and there is nobody here more than these two guys and me and the other people on the ACE board, and Greg and Tracy and all the other people that were at the ACE board meeting, and we were probably talking a little bit out in front of our common sense, but we wanted to push this event so bad that we were probably out there again, where we shouldn't have been. But in any event, Lice and I had talked earlier in the week about the gold standard being Disneyland in Florida. And if Disneyland went down, then that was going to be our signal that we were going to have to do something. And so actually during the ACE board meeting, California went down, except for Disneyland. And then Disneyland in California went down during the board meeting. And then got home, Lights called me. He goes, Disneyland in Florida just went down. And so I said, you talk to Rick, think tonight about what you want to do. Let's talk in the morning, and we'll see where we're going to go with this. So Lights and I talked. I'm sure he and Rick talked. And Rick and I gave him the go-ahead to go to the city on Friday and negotiate the best deal that we could negotiate, keeping in mind all of the health implications primarily. And there are many, many other factors associated with this decision that make it a very difficult one. But we all feel that we made the correct decision. We're going to have to deal with it. It is what it is. It's not like we're the only industry in the country. Every major league sport has gone down. The Masters golf tournaments canceled. Something that has gone on since 1934 and only stopped for World War II. So, in any event, thank you all for coming out. Thank you for supporting us. Continue to support us, and we'll do everything we can for you. I need to also thank this Sun and Fun staff who's going to be under a lot of stress here this next month, trying to scramble around and see if we can get enough, gather up enough horsepower to make this thing go in May. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for being here. It's been a crazy 48 hours trying to decide what we do, but the show must go on, and we want to thank you all for being here right now, and we need your support like never before. So we need your help to get this, pull this through. So again, thank you again very much.
Could I just have the Sun and Fun staff please stand and raise your hands? Come on, folks. You're the ones that are going to bear the burden of this. All right, guys, gals, thank you so very much. And Harley meant to do this, but I also get the board members for Ace, the Sun and Fun to stand up because they're going to be in here throwing their weight behind this as well. There are a couple in the back there, Bob, AJ, thank you very much. Steve, thank you guys for coming. This is going to be a team effort, there's no two ways about it. So, I'll get into a few of the remarks about why it's important that we give it our best shot and the implications on both ways. And I'm not promising you here today that this is actually going to happen in May. We're going to give it our very level-headed best shot to do that. There's so much going to happen in the next 2 weeks. We've got 4 weeks to make a decision. April 17th is what we promised, working with the city leaders and following the directives of the state of Florida and of course the United States government as well. So on April 17th, we're going to pull the trigger. Either it goes or it doesn't go. And between now and then, I can't tell you. But what you do need to know is, what is this virus all about? And we got one guy that's an expert. This happens to live right here in our backyard. He's part of our medical hospitality. He's been with us for decades. Dr. Sergio Sion. If you come up here, Doc. So this is facts. You see in the news the hysteria. What you're going to get right now are going to be the facts of exactly what this thing means. So over to you, Doc.
So, I mean, I don't know what's up with the toilet paper, right? That makes no sense. I have no idea. I got lots of toilet paper because, I just buy it by bulk anyway. But I have no idea what's going on with the toilet paper. And on Monday or Tuesday, I saw Rick Garcia and I said, Rick, you think I should text Lights or call him and maybe I should present something on COVID-19? And he goes, yeah, why not? So we had no idea that this was all going to happen on Monday. So I put some slides together to explain to you a little bit, what's going on with COVID-19. I can barely see this. That's a little bit about me. So I did a residency in family medicine, then I did a residency in internal medicine in New Orleans at Ochsner, and then I did my pulmonary and critical care fellowship at Washington University in St. Louis. And my academic interest was actually certain types of lung disease like COPD and emphysema. And I have to mention the Center Fund medical staff, Dr. Camino Cuervo and Dr. Peter Alvarez, who's a gynecologist, and Dr. Cuervo is an MD, PhD from Harvard. He was an F-16 and F-4 fighter pilot, and he's a neurologist here in town, a very good neurologist and very good AME. And the nurses, Terry Sullivan and all the other nurses that help us, and all the other doctors that volunteer really from around the country and around the state of Florida that come to Center Fund and give their time to help us. So, and of course I got my wife, she's there in the corner right over there, so I gotta mention her. So my wife is a trauma surgeon at Lakeland Regional. So, I mean, I'm a pilot, right? I wouldn't even be here if I wasn't a pilot. That's the only reason I participated in Center Fund, because I love aviation. I've been flying since I was 16 years old. Civil Air Patrol gave me a scholarship to fly, and I've been flying ever since. And that's me and my Cherokee 6F Bartow. So what's a virus? So a virus is a particle, okay? So viruses infect plants, animals, anything that's alive a virus can infect. So it's just a particle. It's not alive or dead. It's sort of like in this transition zone, all right? And there are all types of viruses. And that's COVID-19, right? So that's coronavirus. And the coronavirus, the reason it's called coronavirus is when you look at under an electron micrograph, the picture, this is a sort of a 3D reconstruction. It's a circular virus with these glycoproteins sticking out of it. So it looks like a crown. Corona, like the beer, right? So it's a crown. It's Latin for crown. That's why it's called coronavirus. And coronavirus has been around a long, long time. And that's the, sort of this layer of proteins that's on the outside that give it sort of that crown-like appearance. And so what's I'm going to move this a little bit so but I can't see what's up. So, is that okay? That's not good because I can't see what's there. So there are a large family of viruses. They're very common. So what happened? Well, in China, we don't know exactly what happened, but in China, these viruses primarily live in animals, bats, sheep, dogs, pigs. Somehow, the virus crossed into Homo sapiens. And when that happened, part of the virus changed. The genetic structure changed. And the virus is actually more related to SARS than it is to the other corona respiratory viruses, okay? SARS is a very bad disease. And the virus is named SARS-CoV-2, and the disease is called COVID-19. Just, because you can have the virus and not have the disease. Right? There are people that have, viral infections and don't manifest, don't show any evidence of the disease. So you have to differentiate between people that have been infected and people that have the disease. It's not the same thing. Not everybody that will get the flu virus will get the flu. Okay? And there are people in the world that have been infected with HIV that cannot get the disease HIV. They lack one of the receptors on a macrophage, so they can't actually get the disease. Very few, but just because you have the virus doesn't mean you will manifest the disease or be infectious, right? So you have to differentiate between people that have the disease and the virus itself. Okay, WHO has now classified as a pandemic, so it's in essentially almost in every country in the world, and the countries that don't have it is because they haven't tested it, frankly, right? So this is on the total cases was 938 in the USA. That's not true. Now we're up to 1,700, 1,629 in the United States as of late last night. And in Florida, we have 83 cases, okay? None in Polk County. But that's the good news. The bad news is that we're not testing, right? We don't have enough testing ability in the United States, so there's probably more, right? A lot more. Okay, that's just me flying an airplane in Oahu, in Honolulu, at Waikiki, so that was a cool picture. We're pilots. There's nothing to do with Corona, just a cool picture. And at the corner you can see Pearl Harbor there, on the top right-hand corner. No, you can't get it by toilet seat. So as far as we know, it's a respiratory infection. It's spread by respiratory droplets, okay? If you eat the virus, we don't think you can get it if you eat the virus, okay? We don't know for sure, but we don't think so. The virus only infects the lungs, but it's spread everywhere. So the virus goes into your lung and multiplies in the lung and causes sort of an ARDS, acute lung injury type picture. But the virus replicates very fast in your body, and it's excreted in urine, it's excreted in your stools, in your saliva, in your secretions from phlegm. It's excreted everywhere. Okay, so what makes this virus unique is that the most viruses and most infectious diseases, the degree of disease is roughly correlated to the infectious load. So the more pneumococcal you have in your lungs, the more pneumonia you have. The more HIV you have in your body, the sicker you are. Okay, not true for corona. All right. So everybody seems to have high viral loads, but they don't express the illness, particularly young people. So they could, the people that are minimally sick or not sick at all are still shedding the virus in large amounts. That's a problem, for healthcare officials, because who's sick? You can't tell, because the people that are really spreading the virus, they look fine. So this is a unique property of COVID-19. Okay. How do you compare COVID-19 to some of the other viruses? This is just sort of to give you perspective. So influenza has a fatality rate of about 0.1%, more or less. Okay, the 1918 flu epidemic was an exception to that. The case fatality rate is you take the total number of people that have the disease, all right, you divide that into the people that die, right? So that's how you get, times 100, that's the case fatality rate. And SARS, severe acute respiratory distress syndrome, has a case fatality rate of about 9.6%. Okay, and MERS, SARS came from China, thank you, China. And SARS came from China, and MERS, Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, it's also a coronavirus, and both these are coronaviruses in the family. They have a 36% fatality rate. Fortunately, and we don't know why this happened, MERS burnt out. Okay, it peaked, in 2012, 2013, and then by 2020, it was basically gone from the planet. We don't know where it's gone. So it burnt out, and it's good that it did, because we don't have a treatment for it. We don't have any antibiotics that work against it, and it has a 36% mortality rate. So, coronavirus is not nearly this bad, right? It's 3%, probably 2.3%. The number may change because that's based, I just told you, that's based on the number of cases, okay? You divide the number of people that died by the total number of cases. Well, we don't know the number of cases. These numbers are based on China, and they're based on what's happening in Italy. Okay, so Italy they have a real problem. They have almost 20,000 cases. I just told you the United States has 1,600. Okay, now you really think Italy has more cases? I mean, we'll see. So they're testing. We're not really testing anybody. So what can you do? Well, I wouldn't go to China, okay, number one, and I would definitely not go to Italy, okay, and I probably wouldn't go to France either, okay, and definitely do not go on a cruise ship, okay. That's another picture of the virus. Okay, so this is a long slide, but basically, the good thing about coronavirus is that it's easily killed by common household disinfectants. Like Lysol kills it, Clorox kills it, bleach kills it. There's a list on the CDC website, like 4 pages long, of all the products that kill coronavirus. Alcohol kills it. Don't drink it. It's the alcohol you put in. That's not how that works. So, so rubbing alcohol, right? That kind of alcohol. The Clorox wipes that you buy, that kills it. Okay, you take a gallon of water, put 4 tablespoons of bleach in it. Okay, you just made yourself something that kills coronavirus. All right, so it's easily killed. All right, so it's not. It doesn't do well outside the human body. Okay, and like this is the same slide. So alcohol, most common disinfectant, will kill it. So who has to be worried? Well, until a couple weeks ago, I would say only older people, but that's not really true anymore. But definitely if you're older and you have an underlying disease, and the 3 diseases that we know from China, okay, and from Italy, are anyone that has heart disease, anyone that has diabetes, okay, and anyone that has any significant lung disease. Okay, so asthma, emphysema, COPD, any heart disease. If you ever have a stent, you have heart disease. If you have coronary artery disease, you have heart disease. If you have an aortic valve, you have heart disease. If you have asthma, you have lung disease. If you have COPD or emphysema, you have lung disease. And a lot of people have diabetes. A lot of people have diabetes. So, and you don't have to be taking medicine to have diabetes. You just be a diabetic, just controlled by your diet. You're still a diabetic. You're still a diabetic, and you're not at lesser risk than somebody who's taking insulin. It's the same risk. Okay, same exact risk. And what can Sun and Fun do? Well, this is before I knew they were going to postpone the air show. But I mean, basically, wherever people congregate is the problem, right? Because it's easily transmittable, right? So the transmission rate is probably, we're not sure yet, because we don't know the data. We haven't tested enough people to have it. 1,600 people is not enough to know. Okay, so it appears to be a respiratory dispersive virus. So by coughing, sneezing, or just by talking, all right? So you have micro droplets that when I speak, that are aerosolized in the air, okay? And they go to an average of about 1 meter. Some people will, CDC recommendation is to be sure, make it 6 feet. Okay, then you're sure that you're probably not going to get it. But the problem is that it can live on surfaces for a little while, right? So yesterday, the NIH at the Denver office came, they have a lab there, and they came out with a preliminary report that say the virus can live for several hours to a day or two on surfaces. Now that's a lab surface, it's not like this kind of surface, okay? And that's not in direct sunlight, because ultraviolet light kills most RNA viruses. So that's why wiping things down, be very fastidious when you're going to Walmart or Publix and the little wipes they give you for the cart. And you know, what doctors do is they never touch their face. So, like I've been here almost an hour and I have not touched my face. Touched everything else, right? But I haven't touched my face. So if you don't touch your face, which most people do about 13 times an hour, if you don't touch your face, it's very difficult to get coronavirus, or any kind of virus actually. So I see people there scratching their nose, that counts. So just don't touch your face, and it's just practice. So I've been a doctor 30 years, so I'm used to it. I don't touch my face. You know, if my face is itchy, I wash my hands and I touch my face. And I just told you this, that these common bleach and germicidal stuff that you buy over the counter all work. They work very well. Okay, and that's me, because we're back to flying again. So in Alaska, a couple of years ago, flying over the glacier for an FAA meeting, actually. We had an FAA meeting there, and for that meeting. There are, you know, potential treatments for coronavirus, right? There are a couple antivirals that are experimental, that have worked in mouse and animal models. And certain malaria drugs have found to be effective in SIRS and MERS. The problem is that, you know, SIRS and MERS, they sort of petered out, and the drug companies stopped looking into it because there's no market if there's no disease. So the problem is you can't get this now because everybody's bought it up around the world. So, and the active ingredients are mainly made in China. Another problem. This is one of the antibiotics that's a company in Southern California that is effective against SARS and COVID-2. It's effective in the laboratory. It kills the virus. It's been fast-tracked by the NIH and the FDA about 10 days ago, and the University of Nebraska is now doing a study. The study should be out in April. The preliminary results should be out in mid-April. So we'll know if this remdesivir is working. Okay, and who should be worried? I think we all should be worried. Okay, frankly. Okay. So in Italy, cases have been coming out where you have an 18-year-old that died the day before yesterday on a ventilator. So this is not what we thought it was going to be from the Chinese data. Right? The Chinese data showed us that the older people that were susceptible, you know, an 18-year-old Italian man, you know, that was otherwise healthy is worrisome, right? And I think that's the reason the federal government really got worried, because they saw what was happening in Italy, and they were looking like, oh, we're not that different than the Italians. We need to do something. And that's the virus. And so this is just sort of the distribution of disease. This is rapidly changing, right? So this might have been true a couple days ago, might not be as true today. We just don't know yet, right? So the main thing is fever, cough, and shortness of breath. Why fever? It's a virus. It's your autoimmune response, releasing all these cytokines in your lung, all these chemicals in your body to fight the virus. Cough, because it affects the lung. Primarily, it affects the lung. The virus replicates in the cells of the lining of the lung, and the lungs' reaction is all these inflammatory mediators are released, fluid is released, people have difficulty breathing, they get short of breath. Okay? And the air sacs in the lung basically fill up with water, and you can't breathe. And that's why you die of respiratory failure. So you have to be put on a ventilator. And of course the problem is there's only a limited number of ventilators, right? They're not unlimited. So it's a problem. But if you don't have a fever, you basically don't have coronavirus. So it's 99.5% of the people that ever have it have a fever. Okay? And as I said, the overall case fatality rate we think is about 2.3%. That will probably change somewhat. The incubation period is from 4 or 5 days to 14 days. That's a problem because the longer the incubation period, that means you're infected, shedding virus, but are not sick. So diseases with long incubation periods are problematic because, you know, I might feel fine today. In a week, I might come down with disease. But I've had contact with a lot of people between now and then. I didn't know I was sick. I was shedding the virus. But the average is about 5 days. So don't just think about moving forward without a plan. You get in trouble, right? Gotta have a plan. It took a little time to sink into the audience. Okay. So there's a lot we don't know, right? And it's rapidly changing and evolving. And the main problem is you don't have enough testing kits, right? So the testing kits are available at LabCorp and Quest. The government about 10 days ago gave permission for Quest and LabCorp, which are the two big companies that do testing in the United States. I'm sure all of you at some point or another had a CBC or a blood test or something, you probably went to Quest or LabCorp. They had the test, but the government didn't want to give them permission. Now they give permission. Now they have the test. Okay? And Senate Fund, thank you very much. Y'all have any questions?
I got one question.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned that it's released through tears and stuff like that. What about perspiration and sweat?
So it's not Ebola. We don't know is the answer. First, we don't know if that has never been documented. All right. Ebola is released through perspiration. So just if somebody with Ebola sweats on you, you got Ebola. You got 90% chance of dying. So but that's not been documented with COVID-19. So it's mainly respiratory secretions. And we don't think it's spread through the GI tract, even though the virus is in your GI tract, it's in your gut, it's in your urine. Okay, we can do a urine test and find out if you have the coronavirus. But it's spread through respiratory secretions. And that's what makes it very infectious. Don't lick it. Well, it depends, right? I mean, it depends. I mean, we don't really know this. So this data just came out 2 or 3 days ago from Denver, from the NIH labs in Denver. In the lab, it was a couple days, 30, 40 hours. Yeah. Yes, sir.
You mentioned using alcohol to sterilize and sanitize things. Denatured alcohol works as well?
Any alcohol.
And is denatured alcohol acceptable to use on your skin?
I would probably, I think on the skin, you're better off if you can find, you can use it on your skin. Now, you know, you're going to absorb the alcohol, right? So any alcohol you put on your skin, you're going to absorb it, okay? So you'll come out positive in the drug screen for alcohol. So I'm an A&E, and I'm telling you that, you know, pilots, you know, they don't use, the professional, you know, airline pilots, they don't use that because it'll come out positive in the drug screen if the FAA drug screens them as alcohol. So the tests are extremely good at finding alcohol. But the main thing is actually what's better than alcohol is washing your hands. So washing your hands is the best way. So when a surgeon operates on somebody in the operating room, they don't use alcohol, they don't use Purell, they don't use that Sam's Club jug. They just use soap and water. And that works the best. And nothing's ever been found to be better than soap and water. Okay? The soap breaks open the virus, not just coronavirus, but all viruses. It lyses the virus and kills it. Okay? And you mechanically remove virus and bacteria through soap and water. It just mechanically removes it from your skin. It doesn't last very long, you know. I mean, it won't last a day. It lasts an hour or so in the operating room. So that's why every time between operations, they keep washing their hands. But the soap and water is actually the thing that works the best. And any soap is fine. It all works the same.
I got a question. I know you have trouble not touching your face. How about wearing the like surgical gloves? Would that help if you wear those during the day?
No. No, it doesn't help because the gloves themselves become contaminated. All right. So it's like the face mask. The only face masks that work are the N95 masks, which try to buy one now. Good luck with that.
Yeah, right.
So are the N95 masks. I've worn them many times. They're a little uncomfortable. You get hot. You have to be in an air-conditioned room. You work for like an hour or so, and I mean, they work great. I've done bronchoscopies where you look in somebody's lung with a little light that has TB, and if you don't wear the mask, 100% people will have TB in the room that I do it. If you wear the mask, you won't convert. So they're very good. This is old technology, been around a long time, it works great. But, 3M is now ramping up in Minnesota and Rochester to make them, but it's probably going to take them a few weeks. And of course, the government's going to get all the first masks, right? So. Yes, ma'am.
What is the method of testing? Is it drawing blood? Is it saliva?
They're different tests that are patented, right? So LabCorp and Quest have patented these tests. They are different than the one that the World Health Organization used in January, and are different from the one the CDC uses. But it's the basic same process. These are PCR tests, polymerase chain reaction. I met the guy that invented that test about 30 years ago. He won the Nobel Prize, and he is the one that figured out. He was at the University of California, San Francisco, and he figured out one day while driving from San Francisco to LA, because the night before he watched the National Geographic show on fish in the deep ocean and these like little urchins or whatever. I don't know much about fish. But anyway, so that at high temperatures, these enzymes will be able to catalyze reactions at very high temperatures, and which is a unique enzymes. And he figured out a way to take pieces of DNA and RNA and identify them. So you don't need the whole virus, you just need a little piece of the virus. Okay, so this revolutionized viral testing in the world. And that's what made like the show CSI DNA testing. That's why Bill Clinton was nervous. So you need just a little piece, and you can identify the person's DNA. All right. So they can now track, like for tuberculosis, we can track not only the type of TB, but where the TB came from by zip code. Okay, because there will be drift of the bacteria. There will be slight changes in the DNA, and we can track it through PCR. It's an amazing technology. So these are all PCR tests, but they're all slightly different. They use different reagents. They're all a little different. Yes, ma'am.
Is it dying in the heat?
So ultraviolet light will kill it. We don't know about heat yet, because the virus was first found in China in late to mid-November, all through December, and the Chinese basically kept it a secret from everybody until January. And if we would have known, we could have done more about it, but they kept it a secret. They're really the planet of disservice, the Chinese. And thousands will die of this unnecessarily because of them. And we don't know. The flu, the reason you don't have flu season here in this hemisphere is not in the summer, because the flu virus, it does not do well above a certain temperature. It has to be below a certain temperature. Above a certain temperature, the virus is not viable, and it just dies rapidly. It's not, you can't say die because it's not really alive, but it doesn't survive. The nucleotides break down, okay? And, but we don't know if this is true for COVID-19. We just don't know. We'll find out. Yes, ma'am.
Can people with a virus contaminate public pool waters in our retirement centers?
So the virus is spread by respiratory secretions, right? So if you drink the water that has a virus, probably not. But we don't really know, because that has not been studied, okay? Probably not, because it has to enter through your respiratory system, and it has to do with how the lung is, and it's complicated. But some viruses you can't get infected through certain methods, right? So if you inhale hepatitis B, probably you're not going to get it, right? So, but if you inhale the flu, you definitely will get it, and you'll definitely get COVID.
Will the chlorine in the water kill it?
It depends on the amount of chlorine, and it depends, right? So chlorine does kill it, and that's what they're using in Italy right now, and all the hospitals are using in Italy right now, all this, basically a type of chlorine that's manufactured in China. And we got to rethink this whole economic system. But most of this chlorine is manufactured in China, and yes, it does kill it. Yeah, chlorine does kill it. Yes, sir.
If someone has a compromised immune system, like for example, multiple sclerosis, and they have to go through treatment, and their immune system is compromised, is that more deadly to them than cancer?
Yes. Anybody with a compromise. So if you ever had cancer, ever had chemotherapy, on prednisone, on any kind of immunosuppressant, diabetes, the disease itself compromises your immune system. Okay? Lung disease compromises the defense system of your lungs. Okay? So you're more susceptible to viruses and other problems. All right? So yes, you are much higher risk. We don't know how much higher, but much higher risk. Yes, sir?
If one is infected with the COVID-19, goes through the symptoms of whatever, and then it's covered, is one then immune from getting it again?
That's a really good question. We don't really know. And the reason we don't know is because that's not true with the flu, and it's not true with certain viruses. Certain viruses, like chickenpox, the answer is yes. You generally have lifetime immunity, but the immunity wanes over the decades, right? That's why you got to get the shingle shot. Regarding the coronavirus, we just don't know. I mean, we didn't know about the virus until January, right? This is mid-March. There hasn't been enough time to study it. So we just don't know if you get, if immunity doesn't play a role in the defense of the body, but we don't know if you have that memory immunity to keep. We just don't know. It's not true for the flu. That's why every year you got to get a new flu shot. Because the flu doesn't last very long. The shot for the immunity only lasts a few months. So it doesn't last a lifetime. Any more questions? Yes. Oh, yes. I didn't hear you. Well, that's a good question. So, yes and no, right? So, most of the testing that's available that people are getting are through the health department. The health department in Florida gets their tests from the CDC. The CDC has had real problems in the past month with the test kits that they've been making, right? They're doubling the amount of testing by every 3 days, more or less. Every 2 or 3 days they double, right? So it's rapidly increasing, but there's not enough testing going around. There's just not enough kits to go around. LabCorp and Quest got permission about a week ago, 10 days ago, to do their tests. The problem is that, like in my office, I'll say what's going on in my office, is that to do the test, you have to submit it in a special little Q-tip swab. Those swabs are used for throat cultures. Well, I haven't cultured anybody's throat in 20 years. You know why we don't culture people's throat? Because we have rapid strep testing, which is a PCR type test, right? We don't culture things anymore. The hospitals culture blood and culture urine, but we don't culture respiratory secretions in general, okay? So I just don't have them anymore in my office, and I ordered some. I don't know when I'm going to get them because there's a backlog, right? So it's like what I told what I told Lights and Rick Garcia, it's like you have a photocopy machine, but you don't have toner or paper. So they got the test, but how do I get the sample to them is a problem. And the Quest and LabCorp websites crashed. I've been crashed the past couple of days. I can't order from them. Okay, you can't call them. Nobody answers the phone. So it's like calling Delta or American. I mean, try to call them now. Nobody's going to answer the phone. So it's a problem. It's a real problem. It'll get better, because it can't get much worse. Yes, ma'am. So that's a really good question, and Lights asked me that question. So first thing he asked me when he saw me this morning, this is the thing, it depends on the testing. We don't know how bad it is until we test it. We can't test it. We can't test it because we don't have enough testing availability. So we have to, and it takes a few weeks to have enough data to make that determination, all right? And Southern Fund doesn't have a lot of time to make that determination. And they're depending on the federal government, and they're depending on Quest, and all these other things that they have no control over to see if this works. So, they might solve the problem. I mean, Trump yesterday declared national emergency, which is a good thing. The American Medical Association 3 days ago sent him a letter saying we should use the Stafford Act, declare a national emergency. The American Hospital Association did the same thing. We jointly went to them, to the administration, said this is the problem. You've got to do something now, right now. And they did. So it'll make things easier, but the problem is that, it takes time to make these test kits. And it's not just the kits, it's the little swabs, right? If you go to Quest or LabCorp, if you show up, they're not going to test you. They don't want you there. You know, I got a fax the day before yesterday from one of the big radiology centers in Central Florida. And this is what they said: do not send anybody to get a chest X-ray if they have any respiratory symptoms. That's the only reason I would get a chest X-ray. Not if they have abdominal pain or, you know, if their toe hurts, I'm not going to get a chest X-ray. You know, of course, it's only for respiratory symptoms. So they won't do any X-ray on anybody that has a cough, is short of breath, or wheezing. I mean, you know, this is the problem. And now they're trying to protect their employees. Is what they're doing. They're trying to protect they're not trying to protect you. They're trying to protect their employees. I understand that, but it causes a problem. It causes a problem. So, yes, sir.
Thanks for a great presentation. As the process goes forward, would you probably promised this already, put the simplest recommendation for protecting us and the general public from further disease on a card so every volunteer has something.
Wash your hands. Wash your hands, that's it. Wash your hands. Yes, sir.
I know Dr. Austin said soap and water and common sense is best protected. But I think there are other things that we all need to know, just common sense, to take with us when we're on.
So I didn't hear everything.
We'll provide a list of things to keep you safe. Just common sense, wash your hands, stay 6 feet away from people, stay in the sun, don't touch your face, and drink heavily.
Yes, sir.
Say that again?
No, an pneumonia shot help you.
Against pneumonia.
No. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before Greg gets up here, look, the biggest problem we got is we don't know. That's why the whole world is petrified, and rightfully so. This could be nothing, or it could be something really bad. Nobody knows yet. Until they do, we all have to be cautious. That's why we took the unprecedented decision to push back 7.5 weeks to make this, or actually a month from when we're going to have it to we're going to have it, hopefully, in anticipation that we will know. And once they do know, and we have the comfort of having a way to protect the humans on the earth, then we'll move forward. If they don't, we won't. So let me tell you why we made the decision to delay. As you well know, we've done exceptionally well in the last 8 years being fiscally responsible. And we found ways to create revenue streams that heretofore we'd never known. So right now, as we sit here today, we're sitting on $2 million in reserves in anticipation of a potential loss of a day or a bad event. We never, ever envisioned a complete washout, a cancellation of a show. So let me tell you what that means. If we get to the 17th of April and the world is still petrified and there are no answers, I will assure you that we are not going to be the next bad place to catch this, and we will cancel. And if we do that, God help us, it will mean a $2.5 million hit. That means we will have $500,000 debt, no income, and no anticipated income of any great value. How do we survive? I don't know. I will tell you that it will be very difficult. It will be the worst situation in the history of Sun and Fun. We will have the ability to get a line of credit for about $1.5 million. We'll pay half that other million that we, or $500,000 that we owe on top of the $2 million and $500,000 we don't have to pay. And we'll be sitting there with about $1 million. We run on about $300,000 per month to operate this facility and all the people that run it. That will have to change. That number is going to have to shrink, and we're going to have to go out and look for some kind of financial support, relief, donations, whatever it takes to get into the fall. Because once we get into the fall, as Tracy will tell you, If Bonnie does a great job as she always does, we'll start receiving income for exhibitors, and we'll start regenerating. It will take years, probably 3 years, to be financially stable enough to go back to doing all the wonderful things we've been doing in education. That will stop. It will come to a screeching halt. Skylab will come to a screeching halt. Everything goes on freeze until we become financially strong. It's just like you and your household. You lose your job, you don't go out and buy a new car. All right? You don't go to dinner. You eat meaties and weenies, and you only use one strip of toilet paper, right? It's the reality of life, folks. I'm telling you right now, this is not the end, but it is going to be a very hard road to hoe if we have to cancel in April. So let's all pray that the federal government and all the great wonderful doctors in the United States and all the technology we have identifies the reality of what this is and a solution to it. If that happens and we stabilize, we're in good shape. But let's also realize that if we get to the 17th of April and there has not been a solution to this problem, they can't identify it, it's probably going to be the least of our worries. The economy is going to be in the toilet. It's already going down. It will not stop. It'll go in free fall. The whole world will be in a panic. So there's a lot bigger problems to face than just Southern Fund not happening. We'll get through that, as difficult as it may seem, but at the end of the day, we've got a big problem on our hands. I don't want to make this any worse than it is, but fear is the worst thing we can deal with. So let's just be calm. What does it say? Stay calm, let's fly on, and let's plan for the 5th of May, and Greg Gibson's going to tell us what we're going to do when we get there. Right, Greg? All right, here we go.
As for my slides here, that's it. Everything that we had for you is not here. So we're going to go forward. We've got some fantastic response from our postponement. Obviously, one of the major issues is just simply public relations, public opinion. And I don't mind telling you, we were taking kind of a beating on social media there for a little while when we had proposed to carry on. Not that that's the major influence. We got as much positive comments about carrying on. So now that the circumstance is what it is, we have had such great support from our friends at the FAA. And if you guys would, FAA, Air Traffic Control, the folks over there have just done incredible work in a really short amount of time to make sure that they're all going to be present. As Light said, they've indicated their full support for us for the flying activities that we will have once this event happens. So if you would please give our folks their note round of applause. So at the moment, we've gotten good response from the air show performers and whatnot that we had on tap. Unfortunately, about 15 minutes after we announced our dates, the Department of Defense, after confirming the night before that they should be available, announced that all stand down for every Department of Defense asset nationwide until May 15th. So that was a little bit of boat without sails in the middle of the ocean, but there's a lot, there's a lot of people that really don't come here for that. So we're going to go back to grassroots. Matter of fact, I just joined the Vans Air Force forums just the other day to reply to a comment that was there. And I have found such a wonderful group of people in the Home Builder group, which we have been working to try to get their circumstances better. And at this point, I think we're going to be relying on them to really come out and support us. So for those of you who are on the forums, those of you who have got connections through EAA, through the Vans Air Force and other areas, start talking about what you'd like to do and how to be more present
during the fly-in, without the military assets on site, and I'm informed that that's a hard date. Once they set that in motion, it's very unlikely that they would retract it no matter what the circumstances are, because there's just too many things that's set in motion. The inertia alone would prevent them from recanting that. So that means a lot of space. That means there'll be quite a bit of real estate available to park airplanes in places we might not normally park them. So that opens up some opportunity. We've had some folks that said they couldn't come in late March and early April that now say they can come because of the new date. I won't tell you that that's an even swap, but it's a good indicator. Bonnie has been answering emails fervently, and I want to call out this young lady for her unimaginable resolve in dealing with this. Every single email got a personal response from Bonnie, every single one. She has been professional, she has been forthright, and she has been an absolute rock. And I'm involved. I really am. So our situation going forward is we get to plan a brand new air show side of things. Our fly-in side of things will be what it's going to be. We'll try to determine what the real estate looks like, what the landscape looks like, where to place assets so that we have a very entertaining venue. It'll definitely be more compact. And once we get all that in place, you know, we've had about 48 hours to kind of put this together. So that's why I'm a little unprepared for you guys. But I will tell you that by Tuesday, this will look a lot different. And expect to see some updates. Keep an eye on the website, certainly on social media. Dispel rumors as best you can. Make sure that your chairman or your co-chairman and your volunteers are informed. And of course, as this moves forward, I know we'll have some discussion on it here in just a little bit, but you know, volunteer support, obviously with us pushing back like this, that throws into question the availability of folks. So we may be looking for some alternatives. So keep that in mind. And we're going to have our air operations meeting right after here. And I think we'll just do it like we did last time. We'll just start right here at the base of the stage. But lots of questions. I'm sure we'll just probably be tabling most of them. But definitely ideas, suggestions, solutions are certainly welcome. And I'd be happy to answer those immediately following. So that's all I've got. And I didn't even look at the slideshow, so I don't know who's next. All right, Laura Vaughn.
Said that he really didn't have anything to throw together for some slides. I did. I got a little upset with him last year because he played that the last meeting he played that excellent video, and then I had to come up here and do all of the blasé stuff. So I actually do have just a few slides. So done. Thank you. Okay, so dates changed. May the 5th through the 10th. So everything's kind of going to get a little reorganized as far as the chairman. We're going to reset the chairman website to where you'll have to go in and reconfirm that you're going to be here for the May dates. This is going to help us determine what our workforce is going to look like. So you'll be getting an email as when to start that process, because we haven't done the reset on it yet. That'll come next week. So your wristbands and everything that you've ordered so far will still be in the system, so you don't need to change any of that. Who got an email from me at 3:30 in the morning last night? Basically, I sent that out to every volunteer that I had a good email address from that you have ordered a wristband or a credential for. So I've asked them to reach out to their chairman to let them know what their availability will be for the May dates. So you may be hearing from these volunteers, but still, as chairman, you need to reach out to them as well and make sure that we can kind of nail down what our workforce is going to look like. So with that being said, I'm asking everyone to be flexible, look at what your workforce is going to be. You may not be able to conduct some of the operations that we normally plan to do because of lack of volunteers, equipment, or assets. So this is in a way, a really good time to reevaluate what you do within your area. Look at how many golf carts you order, how many radios you order. Speaking of radios, I was going to bring this up anyway. I've had to pay a couple of invoices over the last year or so to buy some radios that we lost. So I'm gonna, depending on whether the event goes along or what, but when you get radio equipment here, you're responsible for keeping up with it and returning it. So please, when you get your radios, verify that you got what you need, and then when it goes to get returned, please verify that you're returning what you got in the first place, including batteries, belt clips, all of the speaker mics and everything. Look for ways to save on expenses, as I just said. Review the requested equipment and modify as you see how your event, your area is planning out. If you as a chairman cannot return for the May dates, please let me know if you have a co-chairman that might be able to fill in for you, and so we can make a temporary change in the leadership role. It's really important that we stay communicating during this period of time. The wristbands are here. A lot of the stuff that we normally are doing is very hectic. That part's not going to be hectic, but changing and making sure that we've got everything covered is going to be hectic. So please stay in communication with me. If you don't hear from me, please hound me with email. I've got other people helping me with email. So please, if you're not getting what you need from me, please keep emailing me. Calling might work, but the phones are crazy. So emailing and texting are usually the best way to get my attention. The online daily schedule that is currently on the website for the current dates will be taken down. Some of you have made contributions to that schedule as well. We're still trying to determine whether or not we're going to be doing a full-fledged forum schedule. So all of that has to be evaluated and reviewed. We're going to be having a staff meeting on Tuesday to review some of the things that we need to be taking care of. But if you've made a contribution to that schedule, start thinking about those items as well and to see if those are things that we can continue on with in May. Okay, so we have a fabulous new tent vendor here that has become, in my opinion, a great partner as well. They're from Texas. The company's name is National Tent. I've got nothing but raves from them, raves about them since they've been here. Matt, who I think had to go somewhere for a minute, has worked with them, and he says they're terrific. They basically have gotten all of the tents up on this side of the field, except for maybe some exhibitor tents. They've had a lot of cancellations due to this mess as well in Texas. They have agreed to leave these tents in place for us until that's pretty amazing. So we're working right now with their crews to find out when they need to start coming back and determine what the next step is as to when they can start going airside and all of that mess. But I just think for a new partner that they really stepped up. So anyway, so if you happen to see somebody out with a National Tent shirt on, be kind to them and thank them. Reconfirm your special events schedule with Rebecca Ford, 48. Some of you, as we move through this process, some of you have special events like for your volunteers in different activities. All of that, of course, is going to have to be moved if you continue to do that, and that needs to get on our event schedule. So please contact Rebecca and try to confirm that as soon as you can. That will help us determine what else we need to do and any holes that we may need to fill, or what we may end up using a tent for that's not being used for something that we would normally use it for. It will just help us use our assets better. Okay, volunteer needs, schedule change. We may lose some of our seasonal volunteers. Lights addressed our early bird family yesterday, and many of them come in. They are on a strict schedule. They come in and help us set up for the event. Some of them stay a week or two after the event, and then they head in different directions. We don't know exactly what their status is going to be. So Tim may need extra help getting certain things done, whereas he relied on those early birds in the past. So we may be putting out an on-call. You know, he may need a few electricians, he may need something. So keep your ears open for that. If you can help, great. If you've got a friend that can help, please let us know. These are the things that we don't know what's ahead. So we may be reaching out for a little extra help, and if you can help us, that would be great. Volunteer camping. As most of you know, today was the day we were going to start issuing camping permits for those who brought your rig in or you wanted to rope off areas. If you still brought your rig in today and you plan to leave it here until May, we will accommodate that by providing you a permit. We will be issuing those in my office after Becky gets to eat lunch today. However, if you do not have your rig here, you will not be able to rope off today. We just have too much time that we have to work with. Grass needs to be mowed, prep to the site will need to continue. So we are planning on, I don't know if I've got the next slide here. Anyway, we are planning to have a tentative meeting, another volunteer meeting on April the 18th. Hopefully at that time we will know what it is that we're going to be going to do, pushing forward. And at that time, that's when we will allow you to bring in, come in and rope off your sites or bring your rigs in. So I think that might be it for me. So I'm going to put this up here. I don't know if you have any questions for me specifically or anybody in the group. Yes.
If we have a volunteer that can't come, they learned candy or something else last year, will that carry over to 2021?
What we need to do as far as the requests that are made, in some cases, if you have submitted your packet to be filled, those packets are actually, most of them have been filled over in the credential office, but we are not issuing passes today. The credential office will not be doing that. I'm going to count on you guys to manage your packets. If you find that you've got volunteers that are not coming in, take them off of your list and add the new volunteer if you get someone new in, and then we're going to do a count on how many wristbands you've got in your current packet and issue anything different that we have. The camping and everything, for next year, you're going to have to start over for next year. If it's in there now, you don't have to do anything. If they're coming and everything's the same, you don't have to do anything to their record. But if they're not coming, we need to take that off the list so we can kind of know that they're not going to be here.
So you're saying that if somebody had earned it in 2019 and they couldn't come because of the change of date, that they're not going to be considered in 2020?
Oh no, they'll be able to camp, absolutely. Any other questions?
I have a suggestion.
Hi.
I have a suggestion about getting new volunteers.
Okay.
This Sun and Fun originated by different chapters of EAA.
Right.
Now, locally in Florida, perhaps if you put out a memo for volunteers and make them aware of their situation. At the time, we know definitely we're going to have the event this year, and tell them of your situation of shortage of volunteers for the event, and any maybe retired electrician, plumber, whomever, like to enjoy the camaraderie that we have here, to come and help Tim.
That is an excellent idea, and I'm sure we'll be doing some things like that. We do have a database of some of those chapters as well, but that's something that I'm going to ask each of you guys to do. I mean, you guys have contacts within the aviation family. Reach out and let them know what our needs might be. We want if we indeed have this event, we want it to be as successful as it possibly can be. So, any other questions for me as far as credential? Yes. Right. Okay. What she's saying is you do have the capability of going in and pulling up a roster of your active or the people that are listed in your area. And you can download that into Excel in order to get the email addresses, to grab them and send them an email. But you're wanting to have it where it's just the ones you've ordered credentials for, is that correct? Correct. Okay. We'll work on that for you. We have had a new website. Of course, this is such a great year for all this to happen because we're putting them through their paces. But is everybody liking the new website? Yeah. Okay. Anyway, you know where I am. You know where I monitor, what? The pointing. Hey, Tracy. Okay. Okay. Becky, are you taking notes? Thank you.
I have a lot of first-time volunteers this year that are asking if they can come, are they going to get reimbursed in camping and credentials they've already paid for and camping that they've already paid for?
If you can get me a list, we'll look into that if they've paid.
Okay, I've got campers asking also for medical electric people.
Okay.
Do I send them to?
Send it to me. Okay. All right, anything else for me?
So camping refunds will be a case-by-case basis? I'll address that.
Yeah, okay. So
I'll address that in a minute. Okay, thank you.
Yes, Sue.
You're going to have to all cross lines this year to get our work done. We can't be saying, it's not my job. We all have to work together.
We're going to go back to the old Sun and Fun grassroots style of doing things. We're all going to pitch in and do this together. We're going to have a great show in May.
So, let's make one thing really clear. I don't want any rumors coming out of here that Sun and Fun is done if this thing doesn't come off in May. Repeat after me. Sun and Fun is strong. Sun is strong. Fun is strong. Okay? We're going to make it. It's going to be different. Now, first of all, nobody on the history of aviation has ever moved an event of this magnitude a month. Nobody's ever done that. So I'm pretty excited about trying to create something that's never happened before and prove that we can come together collectively, working as a team, and do something that no one has ever done. And that's what we're hoping and praying for. So we'll see what happens here on the 17th of April, and we'll figure out another plan after that. But we've got a little breathing room. So in regards to getting refunds, everybody's worried about the money, honey, right? We're already telling our exhibitors, our vendors, our sponsors and advertisers that after we make the decision, we will advise you what the policy will be. I will tell you this with all sincerity. We will do the right thing, okay? We will do the right thing. We're working out the details of what that is, but we'll be fair and equitable across the spectrum, and nobody's going to walk away pissed off that you took my money for no good reason, okay? That ain't happening. So just trust us to get the right thing done and get the money back to the people that richly deserve it. I would also tell you that between now and the 17th of April, as you're requesting things, think about how you can bring it to the table instead of asking us to put money to buy things that we don't necessarily need. If it's mandatory, let us know. We'll help you get that. But if it's not safety oriented, we're probably going to say no. We're just going to squeak by with what we got. So with that, do we have any questions that I can calm you with? Calm. Are we good? All right, we're good. Okay. All right, everybody happy with this? You want a t-shirt? Neil Glazer, where you at? There he is, I see him right there in the back. He's the guy, he's the man. Get on the list, I'm sure he'll find a way to sell you one cheap, right, Neil? He's the man. All right, let's all have ourselves a lovely Saturday afternoon. It's a beautiful day to go flying if you can. Let's plan for a great event in May. Thank you all very much.